Hey Jonathan, alright, here is your past life reading or spread. And what we're going to do is go to where you are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, the death and lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout. So again, all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that I'm getting, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off what we go over here in your current life, and I'll try to help however I can. Alright? Okie doke. So let's start with the where. And this is the island card, and it can mean a lot of different things. It can mean the typical kind of beachy island, or it can mean even Australia, so there's a lot of things it can be. When I laid this down, what I got was a flash of the kind of island with it's very kind of tropically feel, with a jungle kind of like a dense thing going on in the middle. Mountains are involved, and like a beach, a shore, and it's not so much like, I would not place this on Hawaii. I wouldn't say it's so much Polynesian like Hawaii, but I would say, if anything, it might be New Zealand. That's what I feel like is coming through. So I mean, actually I think New Zealand might be technically Polynesian, but it just doesn't feel like Hawaii. It feels more like New Zealand, but it has this tribal feel to it. So I feel like we're in a tribe. This is a male life that we're looking at, and it feels very much, when I laid this down, like we were looking at a warrior's life, or the tribe that he was part of has a distinct group that are known for it's not fighting, but it's a fighting style that we know today, but it's not like they were like, okay guys, let's go out and let's be violent with other tribes. It wasn't like that. It was just more like a way of life, like kind of like how Tai Chi is like a way of life kind of martial arts, if that makes sense. It feels like this is a way of life kind of fighting style. And because what it's looking like is the males are fighting more, or learning this more than anything, which is funny because I do know in Hawaii there's something where the guys learn like a dance-ish kind of fighting style, I think, like a I forgot the name, but this isn't Hawaii. I swear, this is not Hawaii. This is another spectrum, a region, geography, whatever. But it does feel, again, like there is like a group of men in like rows that are learning to fight, and there even is, like, even in the image, there's like a stick, like a large stick they're using. There's a certain kind of like staff or weaponry that they utilize. It's like a training in the day, but it's almost like a dawn training, like where they train at a certain time together, and then they do it alone as well. So yeah, okay, so we're looking at like a lifestyle. And I'm trying to see, okay, so the clothing, like attire, it would be the men bare-chested kind of thing, not a lot of attire. We're looking at a time that seems kind of more primitive, where the rest of the world could be more civilized, so to speak, whatever that means, civilized. But it feels like this is a more of a primitive lifestyle, or more primitive time. It doesn't feel like ancient times per se, but it does feel like much, much older times, not modern at all. And I'm trying to see what's more going on. It's like full on daytime. It's like they're showing me like the most ideal, beautiful place. Like this place is abundant. There's a lot of abundance of, I feel like not just like food, and I feel like there's a lot, it's very like vegetarian based and fruit based. I feel like it may even be where it's like meat is just like a rare commodity, and it's not because they're lacking in animals, it's because there's something like precious about it, where it's only for like the most important occasion, or like a almost like if people were to get married or have weddings in this place, it would be, you know, the whole tribe would celebrate, and it would be like at least like a couple of days of celebrating at least, like, and that's when they would have the meat, like that kind of thing. So all right, so already the connections you could be making, for example, is like simple things like, do you like island living? Does the idea of a vacation to you mean going to the beach, the island, the, you know, whether it's Bali or Hawaii or whatever, does the island feel pull at you? And it's okay if not, but that's just the kind of connection you could be making. As well, are you someone that favors day over night? And I know that's kind of a silly question, but you know, I live with someone who is up most during the night and is sleeping during a lot of the day. So it actually does make a difference, you know? So you might be more of like a day dweller, if that makes sense, because there's something really interesting about like the sun here, and the heat and the sun and the sky and the daytime. I mean, it could be that you like the sun. Maybe you like being in the sun or sitting out, or the warmth of it, or maybe you prefer heat over cold. It could be like something silly and trivial like that, but it's still something, because I like to say whatever they show me, because it could mean something to someone. So it could mean that daytime is important to you. You might like the beach. You might have a thing with water, because I feel like these people are put by the water. Are you a vegetarian? Do you prefer eating more vegetable, fruit kind of thing, or like scaling back on certain meats or meat altogether? Are you a fish person? That's what it is, the fish. Are you a fish person? Are you a pescatarian? That would be interesting to know, because it would make sense. It would stem from here. If your body is trying to get you to be vegetarian or pescatarian. And it might be that you eat a lot of meat, but you could also know that your body is trying to tell you not to, but you know, it's hard to stay away from burgers sometimes, that kind of thing. But if your body is telling you, hey buddy, let's do veggies, let's do fish, even if you don't do it, if your body's saying that, something to think about. Okay, what else? Oh, right. Okay, so fighting styles. Does Tai Chi appeal to you? Do fighting styles appeal to you? Like, oh, what is it? Oh, the name. It starts with a H. It's not a haiku. A haiku is a poem, I know. It's a haka. I think it's haka. And I know I believe that it's called a haka, is like a Hawaiian dance or something, that the men do. I think the men do it. And that's really a cool thing. And that might be, if you watch it, it might be emotional, might trigger you. So I guess what I'm saying is, are there any styles of martial arts that trigger you emotionally that you feel connected to? Something about, are you comfortable in a group of, and this might sound weird, are you comfortable in a group of men doing something like like taking a class where it would be mostly men, or it doesn't mean like being a bro. I mean, and you might be like what they call a bro, but like it doesn't mean that. It just means that maybe it's comfortable for you to learn in an environment where it's mostly masculine. I don't know. On the other hand, you could have come back to this life where you're just like more in tune with feminine energy, and more in tune with peaceable methods rather than fighting methods, which I do know some fighting methods are like peaceful, so make your connections wherever you can with that. Yeah, so let's go to what you did with the majority of your time here. This card is the leader card, and that can mean a number of things, right? Like in our society, it would mean like, oh, are you a manager at your company, right? But here, we're actually looking at the leader of this group. And I feel like when I say that, all of a sudden the group starts splitting into a few groups. So I feel like what we're looking at is that there are groups of these men that are put together at a certain age. And so we have like the youth, and then the next layer up, and the older layer up, and the older layer up. And it's almost like, even though everyone is a cohesive family in that respect, and they're all learning the same technique, I feel like there are groups that come together at certain ages to begin. So like, let's say there's beginners, intermediate, advanced. You're leading one of these groups, and it's the feeling of you've gone through, like, let's say you've reached the advanced level, and then because of who you are here, you start teaching. So it feels like we're seeing you teach a group. So it's like not a leader in the sense of being the chief of this tribe, but a leader in the sense of being a teacher to the younger ones beneath you in this technique, which is really interesting. It's a really great feel. There's something about your energy being very balanced. And so, in that sense, how you can possibly connect with this is, one, are you a teacher? Are you a leader? Your personality, you know, like, are you someone where people come to you for advice or for help with certain things, and you can be like, just easily helping them, like you just know like the methods? Because there's some people who just don't really get teaching, like they're impatient or they want it their way or the highway, but this person here feels very balanced, so it would indicate in your current life that you have a very balanced approach or method when it comes to people seeking your guidance in whatever way they might do that. On the other hand, it could mean that you have come back into this life to be a student rather than the teacher, so to speak, because here we see you as the teacher. So our souls, when they experience something, a lot of times like to come back and experience the opposite. However, a lot of souls, when they've reached the teacher level, they usually don't come back to be merely a student. And I'm sure you know that, you've heard that, you know, we're all students and we're all teachers, that kind of thing. Of course, you're always learning, but a lot of souls, younger souls, are, you know, in the process of just learning. And other souls, older souls, are teachers. So it could be that it's most likely, it feels like, that you've come back to just continue on with the teaching as at a soul level. So keep that in mind. And if anything, that would be coming up as it feels like a message of some kind, because it feels kind of strong. So let's go to the first important day. We have the War card here. So this means that, you know, it could be a war externally, like a battle, or it could be an internal war, you know. The relationship involved here is family, and the feeling card is distant or removed. And what I'm feeling here is that we see you at, like, what they're showing me is this young man, but not so young, like young, kind of like at his best. Like, I want to say, like, he looks to be like 20, like late 20s or early 30s. Like, he's strong. This guy's like strong. And the skin, by the way, the skin is a darker skin. It's not black. It's like gosh, what is the word? Like, what are Polynesian people? What are New Zealanders? Like, Hawaiian, you know how they're like tan? I don't know, but that's what they're showing me, is like this tan, strong man. There's something with the hairdo that is interesting. There's something where the hair comes down the middle. It feels like there's baldness on either side in a pattern, like it's a something that was done, not like losing hair, but like just like, so it feels like there's long hair, and it feels like the long hair is like tied back down the middle sometimes, or like braided or something down the middle back, but it feels like the sides are either pulled in or completely shaved away or whatever it is. But there's something about the hairdo here, so I don't know if that rings some kind of bell, but that's what they're showing me. Oh, also might as well throw in a connection if you've ever been connected with tribal cultures, just simply that, something to keep in mind. But anyway, this is interesting because it does feel like we're looking at not a war, but like a battle-ish kind of skirmish. It feels like there's skirmishes between certain tribes on this island, so I don't feel like this island is very small. I feel like this is a decent sized island. Again, like, I don't know how big New Zealand is, but I mean, it's gotta be bigger than like Hawaii, right? But anyway, so it's like this island, it just feels like there are multiple factions on the island, and I mean, geez, at this point it might be more than tribal. It could be like newcomers coming in. But anyway, it feels like an inter-island clash of sorts. And it feels like it's something that has been brewing and then something that continues on for quite some time, but not like continuously fighting, more like maybe like every year there's something that goes on, and it feels like it has to do with something that is having to do with deities or having to do with a clash of belief systems, and that's why these tribes are different. And it's like such a minute difference, but it's still it's a clash. And you know, it's funny, it feels like it's like what I was mentioning with the meat being like the meat is gotten on certain special occasions. It's almost like it began, like it finally began, because it's almost like on that special occasion both of these factions were hunting the same meat or the same animal, and it's almost like one got to the animal right before the other, and that started like this whole big thing. That's what it really feels like. That actually can be a connection in your current life, as something like you might find when people are being petty, it might be a trigger to you. Like when people squabble or relationships are like they're messed up, like people will mess up a relationship or a friendship over the most petty things. That might be a trigger for you, where you're like, I just don't understand how people can be so petty and they can let this petty shit just like ruin a lot of things, or you know, stuff like that. So that's what I feel like could be coming up for you for that. On another note, that also could be a message for you in a way where maybe even in your current life something might be going on where either you or someone else is being petty, and it might be coming up for you to take a look at yourself or to recognize the trait of pettiness in the circumstance and to rise above it and release it and let it go. So that's another reason why this could be coming up. But the family involved is your family. I feel very much like you are in a union with someone, and there is also at least one child or two. And it feels very much like, because of this petty stuff, there is, because of what's happened here basically, your focus is more than ever on teaching these people the fighting methods, being prepared yourself. So I feel very much like we see a time during these skirmishes or whatever, where you kind of phase out of focus with your family, almost like your mind is elsewhere, like, you know what I mean? So it feels like that distant, removed feeling is actually you kind of being more distant and removed from your family, but not even really seeing it. It's just one of those things you don't see until it's brought to your attention, or even when it's brought to your attention, you're still like, no, what do you mean? I'm bringing in the food for my family, and I'm making sure the roof is thatched, and I'm making sure this and that. Like, so you're doing all the duties of a good husband and provider, but the emotional aspect is a little bit waning because your mind is preoccupied elsewhere with this, which, okay, can go along with that message coming through, which might mean in your current life a couple of things. One, are you in a relationship or have a friendship, whatever it is there somebody that you might be neglecting in some way that you might not even be fully aware of, but if you stop and kind of take account of all the people in your life and what's going on, are you seeing any signs of neglect? And is that something you want to become more aware of and do something about? It doesn't mean you're supposed to, but it does come up for a reason, so it's just something to think about. On the other hand, it could be a number two thing. Number two, are you not in a relationship? Are you looking for a relationship? Are you looking for bonds or friendships? Are you looking to form these form companionship with someone or others, and you're having a difficult time? And that could also be coming up because of this, like showing you that on a soul level, you might be kind of like worried that, like on a soul level, might be worried that if you form these connections that you'll disappoint people again, because there's a lot of disappointment going on, especially with the wife, even though the child starts to feel it, even though he has friends, like that kind of thing. Like they're aware, like kids are very sensitive, and of course, you know, if you're gonna have like a partner, they're going to be obviously very sensitive too. So it could be that if you're having any trouble want, like with relationships or friendships, or you want them but you're holding yourself back, or whatever it is. It could be stemming from this, which would feel like you don't want to disappoint people. So again, keep making your own connections, how you might connect with what's going on here, okay? So the next important day. Here we have the Enlightenment card. So the Enlightenment card is usually, a nice aha moment, which we love to get because that's soul growth. So we're seeing some kind of soul growth. And the card here is soulmate. The soulmate card is not always romantic. It can just be a soulmate. And then the feeling card here is the confidence card. And so I'm trying to see what this is. I can say that this is years later. This is much later. I feel like we're skipping ahead to life, to like later life. There's something about your kid going through a certain initiation that you yourself went through. And at this time, it kind of hits you kind of like a ton of bricks, where it's like, oh my God, he's at that stage already. It's almost like he's getting married or something. Like your son is grown. Yeah, it's a son. It feels very much like a son. And it feels like your son is grown and your son is now, he's found his partner and he is getting married. And it's almost like you do a double take because you're like, oh my God, where did life go? That kind of thing. It's like like you did, like every day you were doing your duty, and again, good provider and good teacher, everything was great. It's just that it's like almost like there's a part of you that let time slip by instead of noticing precious moments. And this is a kind of like a wake-up call day. It's like a aha wake-up call day because it has you looking back over your entire life, trying to identify those hidden gems and precious moments that you feel like you might have missed while you were there. Almost like that's what's coming through. What's coming through is a message of being present in the present moment. How important it is to be present for the present moment, because otherwise you're going to be stuck digging into the past to find those precious pieces, or you're going to be anticipating the future, waiting for them to come, rather than being present and able to enjoy them and fully appreciate them in the moment. So I feel like that's what this is also this day here where it's your son is getting married. It was actually a gift because you were very present on this day. And not only on this day, it was a big like hit to you where it's like from this day on, you did make efforts and changed greatly in order to be more present for the ones that you truly love and cared about and who truly love and care about you. Which did not take away from being present as a teacher or as a provider or whatever it was. It just added this whole other perspective and part of yourself to your life. It just enriched it. So gaining perspective in this way of learning to be present for these moments enriched this life fully. So it continued to the end in a more enriched state, which is beautiful and amazing. So you could be someone in your current life, either one, it can be coming up as a message, like I said, a reminder to be present, or also it can be coming up as just a way to show you that maybe you already are someone who's dabbling with that concept of being present in the present moment, and to encourage you to continue to do so, okay? Now, the death card is the water card. This is the water card. It can mean a lot of things. It can mean typically, drowning. It can also mean like, oh, you want a sip of water before you die, and it could be a very natural, easygoing death. So what this felt like when I put it down, however, was something about the overturning of a boat, and it feels like you went out and on like a very typical kind of route that you take, and it feels like there might have been others with you, but it feels like at this point, it feels like you're much older, and it's almost like you're not aware of your fragility, like you're not aware of the aging process of your body, because in your mind you're so sharp and you're young and you're everything is good, and your body is relatively healthy, but I feel like it's so much older now that you weren't aware of the limitations of your body, which is also another thing about being present with yourself, not just with the moment and other people, but being present with what's going on in your mind, in your body, that kind of thing as well. because what happens is I feel like there's like a routine thing where, and it's very much a canoe, like this is like a canoe or something, like a very small craft that goes out in very close to the island, not too far out, but it goes close and it makes its rounds in some way, and it feels like there's a capsizing of it, and it just feels like you fall out and you hit something the wrong way. And so maybe you hit your head and you go unconscious, or maybe you hit a part of your body and there's internal bleeding that eventually leads to death by, it's the feeling of being floaty and floating away in your mind. So it feels like falling asleep. It feels like losing consciousness and not waking up is what it feels like, but it all began because of that water, the overturn, something just overturned it, whatever it was. That is how it happened. So in your current life, what that can indicate is, 1, do you have vertigo? 2, are you not fond of boats or going out in the water? Or 3, I don't feel like the water thing would actually be too much. I mean, if it is, that makes sense too, but I don't feel like it's too big of a thing. But mostly it's vertigo, like it could be chronic headaches, or bouts of dizziness. Bouts of dizziness. This could be dehydration, though it might not be, but if you find yourself dehydrated, that could be it as well. This can also indicate that you might have trouble sleeping. So if you have problems sleeping, it could just be like a reaction. We get that sometimes, like a soul reaction to falling asleep to your death in a way you didn't want to. It's not falling asleep. It's not like the death where you fall asleep and then you die like just in sleep. It's where, you lose consciousness or there's blood clotting, whatever it is, and you can't help but go unconscious. So in that struggle of trying to stay conscious, it sometimes shows up in another life as sleep problems, sleep apnea, insomnia, whatever it is, because on a soul level you don't want to fall asleep again. So the lesson now is dream big. And I think this makes a lot of sense actually, because we see this, first of all, this beautiful life where it's very full and rounded, but we see you take a step here. This is where the dreaming big comes in. It's not just about like dreaming big and going after those things and achievement. It's more like dreaming big as in having like a big-minded life. So when you were able to step into this perspective of life that allowed your life to become so much more enriched, that's when the big dreaming really began. Because up till then you're like, oh, what matters most is that I'm skilled and I am leading this group and I'm a man of the tribe and all these things are so important. But then you have this day of broadening your perspective, and I'm sure you know what it's like when something clicks all of a sudden and you just see this whole new freaking world open in what you thought was already like a huge life. All of a sudden this new perspective makes life even richer, even deeper. Usually it happens when you have kids, or it happens maybe when you experience, somebody close to you dies or something, and then you start like really understanding what to hold dear and what to cherish, that kind of thing. So I feel like how this might relate, as far as how it's relating here to your current life, could be it's almost like a message again to take a step back, see the bigger picture of your life, see what is truly dear to you, and also to be present. And in that presence, like when you are in that present moment, that means that you're also paying attention to, again, what's inside of you. So if you're present in the moment and you're there and you're just looking at, you're kind of like watching your life, you're in the moment, it's an all-encompassing feeling, but again, it's also going inside. So when you're present and you're in tune with your mind at the moment, with what's going on in your mind, that's when you get downloads. That's when you get good ideas. That's when you're paying attention to what matters, to your thoughts in the moment. Those thoughts in the moment, those are the ones you want to pay attention to, because that is your higher self filtering ideas down to you. Not just your higher self, but whatever you believe in, whether it's guides, angels, whatever you believe in, the other side is constantly trying to get into your head to help you progress and help you have the most full, enriching life possible. So the dream big card, I feel like, is coming through so that you are actually present in order to receive those ideas and those thoughts that will enable you to have a more fuller perspective of what would make your life more enriched, fuller, deeper. So I feel like that's what it is. So try to be present with your thoughts. It doesn't mean focus, actually. It really doesn't. It doesn't mean sitting there and really paying attention really hard to what's going on in your head. What it means is just enjoying the moment, not thinking of the past, not thinking of the future, but just being in the here and now. That's all it means. Just kind of like being here, but knowing that you're here. You're not the past, you're not the future, you're not anywhere else. So it's not about like focusing hardcore, okay, what thoughts coming in? Tell me what to do. It's not like that. It's just to be aware of whatever may trickle in and just kind of mull it over and work with it and see what comes through, because that is going to be pure guidance and that's going to be your ticket. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed your past life reading. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.